It's time for Hog Sports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on Hog Sports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Well, it's LSU week finally after a bye, a much-needed bye for Arkansas as they try to get back to winning. Winning ways is a strong phrase, I guess. Try to get to a win, their first win in SEC play, their first win against a Power 4 level opponent. LSU and Arkansas both with interim coaches, so should be interesting. We're going to talk about the game coming up. We're going to talk about the coaching search. You know, we're going to go into the latest we're hearing on the coaching search. We're going to talk about, Arkansas basketball as well. So get ready, buckle up. All that more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain Commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle, get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hog Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
So, Frank Wilson, his nephew coached defensive backs at Arkansas last year, and for some reason I keep spacing on his name. Chris Wilson? Coached defensive backs at Arkansas last year. I think he's at Florida now. But anyway, he's the interim coach there now that I think it's crazy, actually, that you've got two guys coaching at LSU and Arkansas who are interim coaches, fairly not early in the season, but, right dead in the middle of the season. He was at UTSA for 4 years. He was at McNeese State for 2 years, and then took the took a position with LSU as the running backs coach, associate head coach, and now obviously the interim head coach. He has just one winning record in his time as a college coach in 6 years. He went 6-7 at UTSA, 6-5. That's his winning record, year two there. 6-5, 3-9, 4-8, 3-4, 4-7. Coming off of a loss to Alabama in his first game as the interim coach, 20-9. So you got LSU. I'll be there in Baton Rouge. It's booked, non-refundable. Same deal with Austin next weekend. I think they're going to get one of these. Probably not at Texas, but maybe at LSU. Maybe they get LSU this week. Maybe they get Missouri. I think it would be fun if, it's obviously against Bobby Petrino right now. He would have to do something pretty remarkable, I feel like, to win the head coach job, even though what's going on the defensive side of the ball should not really go against him. But, it does. It's the vibe of the fans and everything. But, man, it would be sweet to wrap things up with a win over Missouri, wouldn't it? The way things have gone against Missouri, like one last night with Bobby Petrino. It's a night game. It'd be 5 to 7 o'clock. That would be cool. On November 29th. But LSU first on November 15th and Texas on November 22nd. Arkansas has gotten healthier. Taylon Green's healthier. I think Jordan Young and Charlie Collins should be practicing tomorrow, but didn't practice on Sunday. They're off today. Doesn't look like Shaq McCroy is going to be available, but it's not a serious knee injury or anything like that. It's just an injury that's going to prevent him from playing. And then and Charlie Collins doesn't have any structural damage. It's a bone bruise on his knee. So it's just kind of something very painful that you got to try to find a way to play through. But no structural damage or anything like that. Who else? Taylon, the two starting offensive linemen, Marion and Caden. I think that's pretty much everything. We'll get to a little bit of a clip from Bobby Petrino. He'll address everything with injuries. LSU has a 43-23-2 all-time record against Arkansas. There are 2 vacated wins recently from the 2012 and 2013 season that don't count for Arkansas, but don't count for LSU either. They used to like flip it and they give the other team the win. I think they did that with Alabama and Arkansas back in like the 90s or something. But LSU has won 3 straight over Arkansas, 13-10, 34-31, and then last year 34-10, a game that was actually pretty competitive until it wasn't. I mean, that was another product of Arkansas just really being terrible on the offensive line. I mean, Whitweeks, is that his name? Gets through and bats a pass up in the air, intercepts it at the 1 yard line, and the whole complexion of the game changed. Just it was the same deal with like Texas A&M last year also. 2 plays in the backfield just kind of blew the whole game open, ruined the game, ruined the opportunity, any opportunity Arkansas had to win the game. So I remember it, and I was kind of reminiscing a little bit in the press conference today with Bobby Petrino about some of those old games against LSU back in the day. Let me see if I got the scores right here. So that 2008 game, Arkansas won 31-30. It's 4th and 1. You're at with a 30-yard line or something, and I remember them saying everybody's thinking run. But Petrino, Paul Petrino and Bobby Petrino are thinking, well, this is the last time their safeties are going to be crept up on us. Let's throw it to the end zone. And there's 30 seconds left or something. But if you don't get that first down, the game is over. So what do? They throw it to the end zone. London Crawford catches it. Touchdown. Arkansas wins by 1. That was a game that really propelled them. We talked about that a little bit today with Petrino. Really propelled them into the offseason that year. The next year, it's a back and forth. LSU takes them into overtime. Arkansas ends up missing the field goal to send it into another overtime. LSU wins 33-30. Then in 2010, this was before Matthew was the Honey Badger. This is where everybody started calling him the Honey Badger before this game. After this game, they started calling him that. But that's the one where you had to Joe Adams, and it was something Petrino, I remember him saying something that they saw from the year before on film that they applied to that game in a key moment. That one propelled Arkansas to the Sugar Bowl that year. So you got 2 games against LSU under Petrino that propelled them to the Sugar Bowl. He's never won in Baton Rouge. He didn't win that year in 2009. They didn't win the next year. If you remember, that was the year Arkansas jumped out early, but that was the year that Garrett Ekman passed away the week of that game. Very sad deal. I remember the sideline reporter at halftime saying something to Bobby Petrino about being fragile. And she said something like, your team's, you're fragile, weak, and basically, referring to things going on with Ekman. And his only response was, yeah, we're not fragile or weak, and walked off. And I think that was the game he got so pissy with Les Miles at the end of that game at the handshake at the end. But Arkansas was ranked number 3 in the country. They also, when he was at Texas A&M, they lost in the final game that he was at Texas A&M. They lost that game 45-30 also. So he's 0-3. He didn't play there. He said he didn't coach there when he was at Auburn. But he's 0-3 in Death Valley, which is one of the greatest venues in sports. I know, you're not supposed to talk up other team stadiums, so I don't know, but I always look forward to watching a game in Baton Rouge. And it's 11:45, so it doesn't have quite the ambiance as a night game there when the sun finds its home in the western sky. But it's still a great venue, and I've watched some games there, obviously, in day. I've probably been to Baton Rouge. I bet I've been to Baton Rouge more than any other stadium in the SEC. I bet I've been there more than any other stadium. Just because it's a direct flight also during game weeks, and so pop down there, watch the game, pop out. I've flown down there on game day before. Flown in on game day, stayed one night, and came back, which is a little risky these days. Garrett Nussmeier and LSU lost 20-9 to Alabama this past weekend. Just couldn't really get anything going at all on offense. 3 field goals, held scoreless in the opening quarter. Garrett Nussmeier, I think Nussmeier, I want to like Nussmeier a lot because he's a good kid. He's stuck around at LSU. They bring in a player who, takes the starting job from him, and he still sticks around and then has started these last couple of years there for them. But he's just not a great quarterback, and probably one reason Brian Kelly isn't the coach anymore. He's just not great at it. They did play Michael Van Buren some. He went 5 of 11 for 52 yards. Petrino said that they saw Van Buren last year, but I don't recall. It was Ricky Collins, maybe he was thinking of. We didn't see Van Buren in the LSU game last year, but man, LSU players did a lot of smack talking after that game. I remember a video going out there in the locker room. Arkansas, what happened? What happened, Arkansas? Kind of made your blood boil a little bit. All right, let's hear from Bobby Petrino. This is from today's noon press conference, just a minute 37 on this clip.
Taylor's doing great. He was full speed and practiced all week last week and then did a good job last night. Both offensive linemen are back going. Shaq did not practice last night. We probably won't have him available for us. Charlie Collins should get some work in tomorrow. That'll give us an idea of where he'll be at. It's a bone bruise, which are always very painful in your knee. No structural damage, so that's a great thing for him and his future. But it'll just be how quickly he can get back and whether he can or not. Jordan will be back practicing tomorrow too. They're really good on defense, and they're going to come in and try to stop your run first. So we're going to have to find a way to run the ball. Our secondary has been practicing well and working hard at it, and the communication's been good back there. So we're going to have to carry that into the game. I mean, after the game, it was hard in the locker room. We all felt like we were in a position to win the game. We were going to win the game. You watch the video and you try to be real critical of yourself. And what can I do better? What do I need to do better? How can I improve? You meet with your coaches and your teammates and you go through it all. It's very important as an athlete, you put it behind you and move forward. I think a lot of times it's easier said than done. It still sticks with you a little bit. But when we came out to practice last Tuesday, I felt like they had good energy and they had good focus and they worked extremely hard. So you can't ask a whole lot more than that.
You guys like this vest? I got this at Walker Brothers the other day. This is a brand called Shoes. Nice stuff. Nice clothes. I had a couple buddies wearing this, and they were like, and I see this logo like on everywhere, and I'm like, I didn't want to ask just because I felt like I should know, and then I'll go into Walker Brothers, and there it is. It's KJUS. It's from Norway. It's a brand called Shoes. That's how you pronounce it, Shoes. But Walker Brothers brings you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously fitted suit to the perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6 in Fayetteville, and at their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. I'm trying to wear something instead of just a t-shirt. Trying to wear some stuff that I get from Walker Brothers because I do have a lot of stuff from there and highly recommend them. Good people. Okay. Where do we go? Let's look at a few stats real quick with LSU, what they're doing. They let people get to the quarterback. Like Arkansas's defensive line is not very good, obviously. And it's kind of wild when you think about the defensive line, like some of the guys that they invested in, like, David Oki, who I assume is just redshirting himself. I think he could probably play based on what I hear and has just decided to take a medical redshirt and get that extra year back if he can. And, but like him is a guy that they needed. They needed that guy. Ken Talley wasn't cheap to bring in from Michigan State. We didn't even seen Ken Talley. I mean, he's not even hardly playing. It's just Frank Mulipola and Cam Ball and Ian Jafar, Danny Saili, Quincy Rhodes, of course. I don't know. They invested in a lot of the wrong players. And it brings up the question, like, do you judge Bobby Petrino on how bad this defense is since he pretty much had very little say in it? But LSU does let people get into the backfield some. They're only averaging 23.7 points per game this year. Compare that to Arkansas averaging 35.4 points per game. That's something. Isn't that something? LSU total defense. Sorry, wait a minute. I'm backwards on that. Excuse me. Yeah, total offense. LSU total offense. That was scoring offense. Total offense for LSU is 341.8 yards per game. Arkansas is 484.4. So very, very different results for these two teams. And again, Brian Kelly, a big reason that he's not at Arkansas or at LSU right now, stumbling all over my words, I think it's because Garrett Nussmeier. It's a lot of it's that quarterback. I mean, the quarterback stirs the drink. Passing offense, Arkansas is 4th, 275.7. LSU is 9th, actually, at 240.8, right in the middle of the road. Efficiency rating is not very strong, though. They're only 136.5, which, yeah, that's 10th in the conference. Arkansas is 5th in the conference in that category. Rushing offense, 15th. You don't expect that from LSU. 101 yards a game. 15th in rushing offense. Passing offense. Yeah, we went over passing. Okay, so let's flip it over to defense. Scoring defense, Arkansas is dead last. Here's where it flips. I mean, it's just, I guess you see this quite a lot with Arkansas, but Arkansas is dead last at 33.3 points per game. LSU is 4th, 19 points per game. Total defense, Arkansas dead last, as you might expect, 430.6 yards per game. LSU 8th, 327.9 yards per game. So drastically different there. Pass defense, Arkansas second to last, 246.4. LSU 7th, 201.9. So, I mean, as you would expect, LSU very strong on defense, Arkansas not. Arkansas very strong on offense, LSU not. LSU is 7th in rushing defense, allowing 126 yards per game, and Arkansas is 16th, 184.1. So, yeah, two very different teams that have arrived at the same result. Obviously, LSU's won a lot more games, but it has arrived at the same results. I find it interesting a little bit. I was thinking about this, like two coaches that really struggled with officiating this year, Bobby Petrino in that Mississippi State game. You know, there's like the conspiracy theorist in me that like the SEC doesn't want Bobby Petrino, or, you know, the refs are out to get Bobby Petrino. I mean, we've seen stuff where refs do stuff, you know, that are questionable. There's that video about Allen Iverson, the refs sending him a message, you know. But, you know, and the other guy, like kind of a checkered past, is Hugh Freeze. And how many terrible calls went against Hugh Freeze this year? I mean, some calls go a different way. He might be the coach at Auburn still. So anyway, I just find that kind of interesting. Yeah, find that pretty interesting. I want to play a clip real quick from John Calipari, but we're going to talk coaching search for a moment, and then we're going to talk a little bit of basketball. But here's a quick cut. This is a Coach Cal cut. We do these pretty much after every game. Just some of the best stuff. It's not a continuous stream of him talking. It's just the best stuff from after the Michigan State game.
You know, I was stunned we were up 3 at half, guys, the way we played. There were plays that they could have made for their teammates, and they tried to make it for themselves and didn't work out so good. And then, you know, there was just 2 or 3 stretches that we could not get a basket, make a play. We did 3 days of blocking out. How'd that help? I should have done something different because we'd have had about the same results. The best players I've coached have had to get hit in the mouth. Told them after the game, some things you did, you're not playing that way. Not for me. And this is a heck of an experience. You get in and you're 4 rows up on national television. You know, you go back and watch the tape to see if you're on there at all. Oh, man, look, stop the tape. I'm on there, look. But it's a great experience for the students when you have it like that.
So Arkansas basketball, obviously losing 69-66 at Michigan State, just couldn't get a 3 to fall. Not that Michigan State did. Michigan State was 1 of 14 from 3-point range, but you know, when you've got a guy like you know, Malik Thomas, and he's only 2 of 9 from downtown, you know, you couldn't get it when you needed it. It felt like they were battling and stuff. It's just, you know, you're outscored in the paint. What was it? It was a pretty significant margin. Yeah, 46-28. I mean, that's going to be difficult when you're on the road and the three's not falling, and yeah, you're only 25% from 3-point range. You're getting outscored in the paint. I mean, it's really pretty impressive, actually, that they only lost by 3. But this will be an interesting stretch for them to, you know, get back because you got some opportunities. Tuesday, November 11th, Bud Walton Arena. This is on SEC Network Plus at 7 o'clock against Central Arkansas. And then you've got on the 14th, you've got Samford, SEC Network Plus, 7 o'clock, Bud Walton Arena. Winthrop, SEC Network Plus, 7 o'clock, November 18th. Jackson State, SEC Network Plus, 7 o'clock, Friday, November 21st. So you've got this stretch of 4 games to really work on some of the things that went wrong on, and you need it. I mean, you've got some young players in very important positions that are very good, very talented, and need some more experience. So these are 4 games coming up from the 11th to the 21st, these next 11 days or so, where you've got opportunities to get better as a team, because things change. November 27th, Thanksgiving, Duke in Chicago. And then the ACC SEC Challenge on December 3rd against Louisville in Bud Walton Arena. That's really the best game in Bud Walton Arena. It's the best game you got. You got Fresno State, Texas Tech, Queens, Houston, and New Jersey at the Prudential Center. So until SEC play, like, you've got obviously games, but really that Louisville game is the one that jumps out as an intriguing opportunity for Arkansas. And of course, Duke and Chicago. I guess there's probably a decent number of Razorback fans in Chicago. So, yeah. So, let's tell you about our friends over at Blakeman's, of course. Blakeman's Fine Jewelry. If you haven't been over to that store in Rogers, then you should absolutely check it out. But this holiday season, shop for something meaningful, a gift that will last at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. From exceptional diamonds and homeware to designer jewelry and timepieces from brands like David Yurman, Rolex, Tudor, Baccarat, and more. Enjoy a festive shopping experience, both in-store at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers. Worth checking that place out. And from anywhere at BlakemansFineJewelry.com. You can set it up to be delivered. Go online, pick out gifts. There's all kinds of different categories, and you can have it delivered. Make your holidays unforgettable with Blakeman's. Go check out that store if you haven't. If you're in Rogers or anywhere in that area, it is worth a trip over there just to check out what they got going on at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry. All right. Connor, we're going to get to you a little bit earlier than anticipated. If you're ready, give me a thumbs up. All right, Connor. Okay, Connor joins us, as all of our guests do, on the Ozarks Go hotline. If I can pull it up. There we go. I got to get a better trick on that. But Ozarks Go, if you don't have internet service that you're pleased with, Connor, if you don't if you're just looking to make a change for better internet service, check out our friends at ozarksgo.net/hog. That's HAWG. Reach out to them at 479-684-4900. And they are the local people, generally Northwest Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma, ever expanding. So when you call them or you reach out to them, you will speak to somebody local. I've made the point several times, Connor, unlike you, I've never unplugged my router. 4.5 years, I've never unplugged at one time. It has just worked consistently, and they've got several different tiers, I use the 2,500 megabits per second, which is the gigabit plus. I think 1,000 is probably good for most people. Connor, how you doing? You feeling okay? You feeling better?
Yeah, I think I'm finally kind of on the end of this week-long sickness, and my internet's working. We're on the up and up over here, Trey. We're looking up. Obviously Saturday night didn't really go as anticipated, but it wouldn't be a Saturday in the fall without an Arkansas team losing a one possession game, I guess.
You know why they lost? During the press conference for the preview of the game. No. It was after the Southern game. John Calipari gets up there at the podium and says, this football game we're playing Saturday against Michigan State, right when he labeled it a football game, you should have known they were going to lose.
Yeah, it was. It lived up to that too. It was a really physical matchup, but it was one of those games that you could tell that this team's going to be a lot better for it, later down the road. For having played that game, regardless of the outcome. It's a game that you learn a lot from about your team. Calipari even said it. I thought he made a good point. There's too many guys that just individually, they're not, putting themselves into the team and putting their team first, to where, you're not seeing a lot of guys give maximum effort, dive on the floor, get loose balls, and really match the physicality that Michigan State was able to play with. I also saw a stat that said that Tom Izzo is like 84-1 in the month of November in Breslin Center. And so nobody goes into East Lansing in November and walks out with a win. One team has done it in 85 tries. So that context is also important, but there is some issues. There are some issues with this team, and you were talking about it earlier. This 4-game stretch is going to be huge for them to iron out some of those things, get their confidence, get that mojo back, and kind of gear up, because after that, it's a gauntlet.
Yeah, well, I think one positive, because we talked about the Southern game. I think Southern knocked down 12 threes. Michigan State only had 1 3-pointer, so better in that area, I guess. But Arkansas was out rebounded pretty significantly by a dozen, I guess, in this game. So got to get more physical on the boards. But part of that's also like, there was very early foul trouble with Arkansas. Yeah. Trevin Brazil had just a really bad game, and kind of a bad look at the end of that game, slapping that towel. But only played 16 minutes, 3 points, 1 of 5 from the floor, 0 of 2 from 3-point range, including the air ball at the end, where that was obviously a difficult shot, kind of off balance from way far out. Only 2 rebounds, 4 fouls, 2 turnovers. Just not a very good game from Trevin.
Yeah, and for Arkansas's front court, like, they had to play most of that game with like Knox at the 4 and then only one big, because you had Pringle, Ewan, Brazil all in foul trouble. He gets that ticky-tack foul early in the second half, and he's on the bench until really that final stretch halfway through. And then it's hard to win this type of game when you're kind of handcuffed like that, and you're not going to win. And you talked about Arkansas's rebounding issues. A lot of that was because they were having to go like Pringle at the 5, Knox at the 4. And Michigan was able to kind of counter that with 2 big lineups, a little bit more size on the wing too, and Arkansas just wasn't able to match it with that because of the foul trouble. But I need
to see more out of Ewan too.
Yeah, that thing kind of, that whole, just until really that final stretch when it was like 66-60, did he really make his presence felt at all? It's just like something about him. He just, even when he's going hard, it looks like he's still like kind of cruising. He's just not like, it just doesn't look like he's as intense and aggressive. And I think he's only had like 2 defensive rebounds in like the last 2 games or something like that, or in the first 2 games. So it's like, you've got to get more out. You just don't have the, while this team, I do believe, is deep, they don't have the luxury of being able to just have Carter Knox be a no-show, Malik Ewan be a no-show, Trevin Brazil be a no-show, and then, be able to win these types of matchups, because they're just, you just can't have that many guys just not show up and give them what they're capable of doing. And I think that's what they kind of learned about this, is that you need guys like TB and Carter Knox and Ewan, the veteran guys. You need them to show up and really help out some of these younger cats.
14.2 points per game, 7.6 boards last year at Florida State. Connor, I want to talk to you a little bit, shifting gears a little bit, coaching search. I mentioned that I was going to talk coaching search a little bit, and went ahead and came to you just because I kind of want to bounce some thoughts off with you. But obviously the latest that I reported, we've hit a little bit of not a rut, but just kind of hadn't heard a lot these last couple of days, and it just kind of comes in waves. But the last thing that I was told, and I know this to be without a doubt true, because there is talk that, there's smoke screens and stuff out there. I can say with complete certainty that that James Franklin has reached out to people about what's going on at Arkansas. He's asking people, and I know that these people are connected, through agents or crossing paths and stuff like that. There's all kinds of things like that, but he has reached out and asked about Arkansas. I know that Arkansas has made contact. And from what our sources have told us, that Arkansas is, and I reported this a couple of weeks ago. I think I first started reporting this on October 28th, but that Arkansas's plan was to put a package out there for James Franklin that he would have to say no to, that he would be intrigued by at the very least. I still think the odds are stacked against James Franklin ending up at Arkansas for a lot of reasons, but that does appear to be their guy that they want to at least say no. I think the most important thing, and I want to get your thoughts on this, obviously it'd be great to land Franklin and everything, but the most important thing is that Arkansas is all marching in the same direction, which it seems like now, from boosters, Chancellor, hopefully, to Urachek, to, everybody involved marching in the same direction, trying to make sure Arkansas gets to a point where they can raise $40 million these next 4 years and get in the top half of the SEC in spending.
Yeah, and to your point, I think we've talked about this the whole time. That's been the biggest thing, is that you need everyone to kind of march at the beat of the same drum. You need everyone kind of going in that direction, everyone kind of waking up and being like, we need to do this, and we need to everyone have a plan of how Arkansas is going to move forward. We talked about the 2030, that being a kind of a point that everyone's kind of got out in the distance, that, hey, we need to turn things around to get this thing, so you don't get left behind. Really, you don't want to get left behind, and that's kind of where a lot of people believe college football is going. And so it's really good to see that and see Arkansas kind of getting their stuff together and everyone kind of being a little bit more organized than we have in the past and than we've seen in the past. And I think that the biggest thing for me is, if James Franklin is the target, does that money and that plan kind of shift if he falls through? Or do you think that if they do have to move down their list, do you think that some of those resources, the majority of those resources, still stay with the next guy?
I hope so. I mean, that's kind of my whole thought process behind, the silver lining of Franklin ultimately probably saying no to Arkansas. I mean, again, I'm trying to temper expectations here. Like Arkansas, yes, making a run at the guy, the likelihood that he says yes when there's so many other opportunities out there, I think are, might be tough, but we'll see. But that would be the hope for me, Connor. I mean, sure, like that they've got things in order and can start putting a competitive team out there. I mean, you've also got to do things. You've got to have a better support staff. You've got to have more analysts. Arkansas doesn't have as many analysts as some of the other teams, in the SEC. You've got to have advanced scouting department. You need better travel arrangements from, what they use now to a company like American or something like that. You need an NIL guy to go out and raise money that's a stud that you're just going to do a great job. You need a football GM under Remy Cofield who's a stud. And that all will take money. It takes money to have this recruit. You got to have more money for recruiting. All of these things, salaries for coaches, salaries for the head coach, all of those things, and that's $10 million a year on top of what they have currently going for football. So all of those things are very important. And hopefully if, the Franklin thing happens, like I think, where they don't end up getting him, hopefully everything else stays in order.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most important thing, is to be able to get those resources, because if you do take a chance on some of these names, like, Eric Morris is intriguing. Obviously, John Summerall's been a name that's thrown around for pretty much every job. But some of these guys, that are going to be, Ryan Silverfield, some of those guys that are going to be more of you're kind of taking a swing on, rather than like a proven track record kind of guy like James Franklin. They're going to need all of the resources and all the help that they can get for that to, kind of reach their full potential and kind of be a hire that you can, accurately judge. You don't want to handcuff those kind of guys and then not really know what you have and can't make an accurate assessment of, and give them everything that they need to be competitive. So I think that's the most important thing. It sounds really promising that's happening. You just really hope that all this kind of goes in the direction that you've kind of painted it to go towards.
I've kind of been, I've been following the AAC a lot more than I normally would.
Yeah.
Just because of all the the potential coaching candidates in that conference, but they're kind of eating their own right now.
Yep.
South Florida's 7-2 now, Tulane 7-2, Memphis is 8-2 now. North Texas is there at 8-1. North Texas has a pretty good path right now. They've got UAB and Rice, both road games, and then they've got Temple. They should be able to take care of business there, and might be. I guess they play a conference championship game, so I'm not sure who would.
I thought that they did, but they may be one of the conferences that doesn't.
I mean, I followed it enough. I should know. South Florida beat Tulane beat Memphis, right?
Right.
Memphis beat South Florida, I think. I mean, it's probably going to be an interesting tiebreaker. Navy is there. Navy's 7-2. They're in the mix. Speaking of Service Academy, on our coaching search hot board, I just added this just because somebody was saying that, it's totally unconfirmed. We put out coaching search rumors that are just, unconfirmed stuff that people are putting out and label it as such just because we want to have fun with the coaching search. We also put out more hard evidence, more hard information on HawgSports, which, by the way, you can check out for 75% off right now for an annual subscription, or you can sign up for $1 for the first month. So 2 great ways to sign up, but 75% off deal, that breaks down to $250 a month over the next 12 months, $30 for the entire year. So it's a great way to sign up right now if you want to follow everything that's coming on with this coaching search. And that's not just the coaching search. It's the transfer portal news that's following. If you notice, I hadn't had Danny on the last couple of Mondays because I'm giving Danny a break because of what's coming with the transfer portal, with recruiting, and it's filling out the staff. It's all the other things that go on behind the scenes with a coaching search. There's just so much stuff coming in that regard. So go to HawgSports, HAWG sports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Sign up for that 75% off deal. If you like what we do here, you're going to love what we do at HawgSports. But I added a couple of names on here just kind of for fun because somebody had said that they're talking to a Big 12 coordinator, which they should be. They should be talking to everybody that is a remote possibility for the job, because I've said before, it's not important to me how people feel about this hire on day one. It's a little important. I shouldn't say it's not important because it is important. But to me, it's more important how they feel December 2026, December 2027, how they feel. So I added Shieldwood, the Texas Tech defensive coordinator. I was just going through because he said they're talking to a defensive coordinator in the Big 12. So I was just like, Big 12 plays defense? I didn't know that. So I found this guy. He's over at Texas Tech. Obviously, they're having a lot of success this year. He's 43 years old. And I was looking at him, and so his first job as a defensive coordinator was co-DC at Army in 2020. They had the number 1 total defense in the nation and number 2 scoring defense. Next year there, they were 16th and in total and 32nd in scoring. So from there, this dude takes the Troy job, the DC job at Troy under Sumrall. Troy finished 3rd in the Sun Belt in total, 2nd in scoring. The next year he went to Tulane. So this guy moves around a lot. Coach under Willie Fritz. His only year at Tulane, Greenway finished 2 in AAC in both total and scoring. Followed Fritz from Tulane to Houston. In 2024, Houston finished 2nd in the Big 12 in total and 4th in scoring. Left Houston for one year and took the DC job at Texas Tech. They're 1st in the Big 12 in both total defense and scoring defense. So this guy's got like a pretty good record. The other guy that I looked at, Connor, was Jay Hill at BYU, who was a former head coach I believe he was at Wofford. Let's see. I believe he was he wasn't Wofford. He was Weber State, I think. Weber State. But his whole coaching career has been in Utah. He was at Utah forever, then head coach at Weber State, now at BYU. BYU is obviously having a lot of success this year and one of the top defenses in the country too. So anyway, I throwing a couple of names onto the pile, just for the heck of it. We've got, I think, 20 names on there right now with James Franklin at the top. Bobby Petrino's on there. We've talked about PJ Fleck some as a possibility, and all those G5 coaches, Sumrall, Moore, Golish. Even talked about Tony Elliott at Virginia as maybe a possibility. My sources had told me 2 ACC coaches, head coaches had expressed interest, 2 Big Ten coaches had expressed interest, 6 coaches on the G5 level had expressed interest, and they were talking to 2 coaches coaching in some capacity in the NFL. I had not heard anything about a Big 12 coordinator until the guy posted it the other day. Just thought I'd have a little fun, add a couple of names to the hot board on a Sunday. So
Yeah, we talked about different. You talked about you watched a lot of the American this weekend. I was able to watch a little bit of it was James Madison at Marshall. I think that was on ESPN. Bob Chesney is kind of an intriguing name if you get
Chesney.
into that.
They're 8-1, I think, and it's not just because of Cignetti's players, because he took all his best players with him from James Madison to Indiana, and he kind of had to rebuild that. But Chesney,
yeah, he's more of he's a guy with a defensive background, while Cignetti was more offensive background. But people are like, we need to find the next Cignetti. We need to find the next guy like that. And you may not have to look further than his successor at JMU to find that kind of guy, because you look into his background, he's won everywhere. I believe it's Holy Cross, and then it's very similar path to Cignetti. Not saying that they're the same, but he's a really interesting name. I think that I've watched JMU a little bit just because I think that they're kind of on that playoff bubble. And but then the names that you talked about, the coordinators, I kind of feel like you in a sense that I don't feel like that this is going to be a coordinator hire.
Yeah,
I don't think that it is, but
I feel like it would go to Petrino probably before.
Yeah, I think that that if it got to that point, you'd probably just hire Petrino and go that route. But yeah, I think that I see this being, if it's not Franklin, if that kind of plays out how we're feeling, it seems like one of these G5 guys is probably going to be the guy, whether it's Golish, Silverfield, Morris, one of those guys. I feel like that would be the direction.
Could be somebody that surprises you too. The way this thing's going to play out too, Connor, like I feel like we've done a pretty good job of guiding people along how things have played out so far. From
100%.
The Franklin interest to the meeting. I don't know that anybody else was reporting that, but the meeting and then what came out of that meeting with all the boosters and Hunter Yurachek before the Mississippi State game. Some of the other things that have taken place that we know has happened. As I mentioned to James Franklin, like him, he's actually looking into it. So that's good. But the way it's going to play out is about roughly a day before Arkansas has its man. The agent of that person will call somebody, a national reporter from CBS or ESPN or something like that. We'll call them and say, hey, my guy's signing, go with it. That's how generally the story breaks. Now, I broke the Morris story. There was a lot different deal because there were so many people involved in that. The Pittman story, I think that was me and maybe a couple other people all kind of at the same time. I've broken some firings, John Pelfrey, Anderson. But generally, I don't expect to go into a coaching search and think that I'm going to be the guy that's going to break the story. I have before, but I don't think I'm going to be the guy that does that. It'll just come out like a day before. And we may be barking up the tree hard. Like we could bark up that tree pretty strong before somebody says this is what's happening. But that's kind of how these things usually go. The agent usually makes a phone call to a national reporter. So.
Yeah, and to your point about kind of painting a picture of where everything's going, there's a lot of different places that'll throw out different names and different nuggets and everything that they hear. But I think that what separates what you've done with this coach is that you get, it's a lot of people don't understand. It's your reputation on the line if you say something's going to happen or if you point someone in a direction and it completely backfires. And so I think what a lot of people don't understand is the work that goes on getting things verified from not just one source that maybe could be wrong, could be right, but getting it from multiple places and then laying it out the way you do, I think is completely head and shoulders above what everyone else does. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that what goes on and kind of how different it is. And it's easy for them to say like, oh, Trey was not the first on this little nugget of information and he was wrong on that. I think that there's a reason why HawgSports is what it is. So I just wanted to kind of give you your flowers and
but it is fun with other people. I'm not the only person that's got a connection, I'm sure. But it is fun. But like the thing that we're not going to do is be reactionary. Like, somebody will report something from somewhere else and I'm like supposed to report it too. Like, good for them, I guess.
That's the thing that I think a lot of people.
I'm not going to go chasing other people. Exactly. I don't have time.
Yeah, and you just have to, and that's one of the biggest things that I learned, getting thrown into the Calipari thing is that you have so much stuff coming from all these different directions that you can get lost in trying to, chase different things and try to keep up with what people are hearing here and there. And so I think that's been just the most fun thing is that when there is an update, it's really, really fun. And then you just get lost in those threads on the razor's edge, just hearing people's takes and everything. It is super, super entertaining, but there is a lot of good work that goes on behind the scenes that I want people to appreciate.
Well, that's fun and everything. We try to make it as entertaining. It would be nice to be involved, like watching some of these games, and some games coming up this weekend, man. There's some games coming up this weekend that are very important. But like I've kind of adopted from watching good teams standpoint, adopted Vanderbilt, adopted Indiana, teams that I'm totally jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, I was early on Signetti, though. I mean, I had him on our 2023 coaching search hot board when I thought there was going to be a change back then. That would have been cool. But anyway, Mendoza to what's that guy? Omar
Cooper.
Omar Cooper. I don't understand how Omar Cooper's right foot didn't go down. It's coming down.
Me either.
And then Gus Johnson's call on the play.
Yeah, his voice goes out. So that's crazy. Me and my wife were actually watching that game. Like my wife just, she's usually scrolling on her phone, not really paying attention when we're watching games or something. She was watching the game with me, and she's just like, "Oh my gosh!" She's like, "There's no way he caught that, did he?" And I was like, "I think he caught it." And so yeah, to your point, it's really fun to get behind some of these teams that aren't traditional powers. The Indiana game was so entertaining because I was just like, we're watching a team just kind of, they have everything going for them, and then they're just going to, slip up against a team that didn't really have much to play for or fired their coach. And then for them to kind of nut up and go down the field and end on that play really was super entertaining. And it's fun to watch all these schools like Vanderbilt and Indiana and kind of make some noise and shake things up a little bit.
I know it's wild that I choked myself up trying to do that Gus Johnson impersonation. That's the last time I'm going to be able to do that. But that's a hard voice to mock the excitement level that he felt and just told. But anyway, Auburn scoring all those points and still couldn't find a way to win.
Yeah.
I'm like crying. I got so choked up trying to do Gus Johnson. All right, Connor, anything else you want to add?
Not really. I'm excited to be up in Fayetteville tomorrow for the game against UCA, and it should be fun. These next 4 games should be Arkansas basketball. Handle your business, and then gear up for the Thanksgiving Day clash against Duke. It's gonna be fun. Yep.
All right, appreciate you, Connor. You can follow Connor at Connor Goodson, CONNOR Goodson on X. Does a great job for us, and has for a few years now. Connor's established himself as one of the top basketball guys in the state, and we appreciate all the work that he has done for us. So last week, we totally redeemed ourselves. We had a couple of really bad weeks picking games, and on the Bet Saracen Wager Wagons, Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. By the way, on the Bet Saracen, if you go to Bet Saracen and you use the promo code BIDDY125, capital BIDDY 125, on your first bet, you can use the link below. If you're on YouTube, use the link below and enter that promo code. You can get $125 in bonuses back on a $25 bet. Your first bet, $25, get $125 to bet back on that. So pretty sweet deal. I'm still crying a little bit from Gus Johnson. But pretty sweet deal at Bet Saracen. So use that promo code BIDDY, BIDDY 125, get $125 back on a $25 bet and bonuses. So last week we went 4-1, guys. We nailed all the football games we picked and lost the basketball game. We picked Arkansas at +1.5 in that one, and so we didn't get it done there. But we won. We had Texas A&M -6.5 at Missouri. Both teams were coming off of a bye. Aggies won 38-17. We had Vanderbilt at -6.5. Vandy just barely got it done for us in overtime, won by 7, 45-38. We had Bama -10 at home against LSU. Alabama won by 11, just barely getting that done for us. And then obviously lost the basketball game. And then the game that I was most bullish on, because I know the differences in those rosters, was South Florida at home against UTSA. That game was at 13.5 when we took it, and South Florida won by 32. Love Jeff Traylor, but that was a butt kicking right there. Yep, log on to Bet Saracen, Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. A lot of good games this weekend, man. I was looking at them earlier. You've got, not even like South Carolina, Texas A&M. Usually Arkansas, LSU's, but you got Oklahoma at Alabama. You got Florida at Ole Miss, Texas at Georgia. It's a top 10 matchup. Mississippi State, Missouri is an intriguing one. Mississippi State's fighting for bowl eligibility, stay bowl eligible. I guess they've got some challenging games. It's not like stay bowl eligible, but that's a game that they probably need to win. And Missouri just dropping out of the top 25. Okay, let's go to a few questions now on the Razor's Edge VIP forum. Swish Musselman says, what are your thoughts on Eric Morris and Golish? It's amazing how many people don't want Morris because his last name is Morris. Like, that's where we are. But he's got the best record in the AAC right now. Golish, I think, makes a lot of sense. A lot of, like, in a kind of a fun way. Obviously, he's had success at South Florida. They beat Florida this year. And, just the fact that he was born in Russia, he's the Russian boar. I just feel like that just adds up. His wife's from Greenwood. That's fun. But he's a guy that I think a lot of people like. I don't think there'd be many people out there who'd be like, oh, this is terrible. How could they, I think most people would be pretty pleased if they got Golish. Morris is a great evaluator of quarterbacks. So I think that, I think that both those guys are intriguing on a level. They're not going to generate as much steam as like James Franklin, obviously, but Franklin's a long shot, in my opinion. Big DC 77 says, Trey, do you think with the New York Giants opening that Lane Kiffin could reunite with Jackson Dart and the Ole Miss domino affect our search? I have heard talk about Lane Kiffin and the NFL. I also have heard Lane Kiffin is going to be offered $12 million north of that, maybe at LSU in Florida, but also Lane Kiffin has a chance to make a run in the college football playoff. He makes a run in the college football playoff, then that really torpedoes any plans that Florida or LSU might have to try to bring him in as their next head coach, because they're going to end up losing all their players to the transfer portal, and the transfer portal is going to close. And not that they can't still add players after it closes. You can, but a lot of the good players are going to be gone. West Hog 21 says, what kind of a deadline do you think is given to James Franklin? Can't be left scrambling if he waits 3 weeks to turn us down. I kind of think that we're going to know the next coach within a month, maybe as early as 3 weeks. But within a month, hopefully, we know who the coach is. All kinds of things could change with dominoes falling everywhere. But deadline is a strong word to put on a guy like James Franklin. So is interview. There's all that talk about what was the old chancellor's name? John White wanting to interview. Who did he want to interview? Oh, Bill Self. When Bill Self was at Illinois. And he was like, I'm not interviewing for the Arkansas job. Like, that's ridiculous. So, but James Franklin, I imagine he would want to check out the digs, but deadline's a hard word to throw on a guy like James Franklin, like you got till now. Paul Feinhog says, Trey Dog, 2 questions here. How's the yard looking after the landscapers rutted it up? And I would say a third of the area where they rutted it up, all the grass died. They killed it. And you know what? They hadn't called me. They hadn't called me back. They said they'd call me the next week. They never did. So screw those guys. Not happy about it. But yeah, I spent hours out there walking it and trying to smooth everything out, put down some more seed. But yeah, on about a third of the area where that jackass drove over my 3 inches. How could you not see there's 3 inches of freshly laid dirt and very fine grass coming up? Like, moron. I'm so pissed still. Thanks for bringing that up, Paul Feinhog. Anyway, yeah, it killed the grass, just like I told him it would, and he said it wouldn't. He's like, oh, it'll be fine. No, it's not. I've seen it before. If FSU fires Norvell, would he be someone you would want at Arkansas? I don't think that. I don't know. I think Norvell will probably get another opportunity, but I just don't know. I don't think that Norvell's a bad coach. I just think, sometimes things just don't work out, but I don't know if that's something that would get a lot of people excited after the last couple of years that they've had at FSU, even though they had that one good year. Whiskey Drunk says I got to read this first. Okay. So you never know what Whiskey's going to say. It has been widely speculated that Yurachek is not making this coaching hire. Have you heard the same thing? And if so, why does it sound like he is making the hire? What gives? I did hear that early on, that there's certain people that are very displeased with Yurachek, people with very deep pockets that are very displeased with Yurachek. I have not heard that in a while now. That's probably a few weeks ago that I was hearing that Yurachek might be out. I have not heard that in a long time. Yurachek held the meeting with all those boosters. Like, I don't know why that would happen if he wasn't the one making the hire. But yes, I did hear that. It felt like the stuff that I'd heard a few weeks ago was kind of started making its rounds for whatever reason. Smiling Assassin's Creed says, T-Business, can you confirm reports of Bielema being at Ruth's Chris in Rogers with donors, board members over the weekend? No, I can't. Doubt he's a candidate, but would be good to get your thoughts on the Big Ten coaching candidates. I think Fleck is a guy that they're looking at. Just looking at. I don't know that. I think that he would be. Certainly heard some, just some smoke. Nothing really hard and confirmed. And I don't really know who the other guy would be, to be honest. I would take a look at Matt Campbell. He's been at Iowa State for a long time. I know that's not Big Ten, but just thinking in that region of the world. But no, I haven't heard that. I mean, somebody told me a story like last year they were somewhere and Lane Kiffin's walking around, in Fayetteville. I guess he's there recruiting somebody. They're like, that's Lane Kiffin over there, visor and all. Trey, in all your posts and donors and the coaching, in all of your posts about donors and the coaching search, one name seems missing, Jerry Jones. Is he involved in the fundraising conversation, or is this purely led to Tyson? I think that Jerry's more like your fundraising as an NFL guy. I think there's something like where you can't get invested in coaches or something. But, Jerry is given to Arkansas, obviously. It's the Jerry and Gene Jones Student Athlete Success Center. But Tyson is from what I was told, is the backstop for their fundraising efforts, where they're able to actually say, hey, we can do this. And that's been a problem, Arkansas not having hard figures. And now they can say that, because not that the fundraising has ended with Tyson. It hasn't, but, he is there for them, from what I've been told. Amanda Squeal says, what is your favorite memory of the Arkansas-LSU rivalry? Do you think we'll ever get to the LSU game back Thanksgiving where it belongs? I don't think that's going to happen, now with CBS out of the picture also. But my favorite memory, I've told it on this show before, but I was in the press box in Little Rock. I'm going down to field level for the end of the game. Last several minutes, Arkansas is winning. I'm following the two representatives who were there from the Sugar Bowl, and they're in front of me. This drunk guy comes down to the concourse area, and he's like, what are you suits doing here? And I was just like, buddy, this is not the time. And anyway, I follow those guys down. And I'm just like, oh, my God, that's not the look we want here. Follow him down there, and I hear one of them say to the other guys, like, what do you think? And he's like, pretty great crowd. And that's when I knew that Arkansas was going to the Sugar Bowl. But that play that from Mallett to Joe Adams with Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, before he was known as the Honey Badger in coverage, that sticks out to me. Kobe Hamilton going crazy on him. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that was the game where Kobe scored right before halftime, I think. on that long run, that long play. But yeah, there's some great memories. I liked going down there with Bielema that year at night where they just beat them like a drum. Jared Cornelius had a big game in that. Like, there's a lot of Louisiana guys on the roster that had a big game, but Arkansas won like 30-something to 20-something or something like that. I mean, they beat them pretty solidly. The Darren McFadden game when they were number 2 in the country, I got that wood. That game is that's going to be hard to beat. That would be hard to beat. There's a lot of great games in that rivalry, especially for it to be, pretty dominant in LSU's favor. T.S. Smith, 0628. Do you get the sense that NIL is starting to turn around here no matter who the hire is? Yes, I think so. Here's a problem with Pittman. It wasn't – obviously it was the games, that ultimately led to this, but people just weren't behind him financially. People would not donate the way that Arkansas needed them to donate under Pittman. They just wouldn't. And so there was no other option but to make a change. As far as NIL stuff, like I've told you all that stuff on Fanstake about that. I guess a company or a person putting in just putting in $50,000 to protect Quincy Rhodes. I mean, that stands out. But I've talked to people who talk about donations to the U of A and stuff like that. But we'll see on NIL. Like NIL right now, I mean, they've got to get NIL in order. There's no question about that. We're going to start seeing other things as far as revenue goes. Like I mentioned, like, just the idea of a student experience fee. I just threw out the number $200 for 34,000 students. That's $6 million. Like that could generate some revenue. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show, but we're going to start seeing logos on jerseys too. That's coming. Pro teams do it all the time. Like soccer teams don't even have their team name on their jerseys. They just have whatever company sponsors them. But we're going to start seeing logos on company logos on jerseys, and that's coming soon. So get ready for that. If you need something to bitch about, that'll be there. Hogtalica says, do you think Arkansas State hadn't been on the schedule in 2025 when Arkansas made a coaching change at the end of the 2024 season? I think that was part of it, Hogtalica. He's asking if Arkansas State game had a role in it, because if you think about it, your roster gets depleted because of the schedule. I know I keep repeating myself on that, but it's very important. It's why we only saw West Virginia, North Carolina, and Purdue open up last year versus the teams that we're seeing opening up for jobs this year. It's a pretty dramatic difference. But, yeah, I think Arkansas State played a little bit of a role. You can't lose that game, so your roster gets just depleted. You don't have time to build it back up. And Arkansas State, surprisingly good, or, builds on what they had last year. And you lose that game, that would be an awful look. That's like people talk about Hunter Yurichek's job security right now. Whew. Lose that game, that would be bad, especially since he was, kind of leading the charge and scheduling that game. So that would have been a bad look, but also I think more so it was the calendar. That's why we saw across college football. And, of course, people didn't know what to expect fully with the $20.5 million that they had to carve out of the budget to pay players. Hall 6. It's a 6 that makes it look like hog. Yeah, I think he's just asking about coaching search nuggets. I provided some of those. I don't want to give everything away on the show that we talk about on the site, though. I just a lot of the stuff, like people say, yeah, Trey, I heard that. A lot of the stuff I'm telling you is stuff it's older news, we put most of our new stuff on the board. Alex says, which football team is worse, 2023 Arkansas or 2025 Arkansas, and what could be done differently to avoid such disastrous seasons? That's a tough one. 2025 Arkansas is maybe worse because of the contrast. Like the offense has been mostly good. There have been obviously struggles. They've cost them games. Like we talk about how bad the defense is. Well, the offense cost them against Memphis, against Ole Miss, and against Auburn. Those are 3 games those weren't just huge scoring outputs. They were higher scores, yes, but think about it. The last game was penalties and the defense. The defense gave it up at the end. But 2023 team was really disappointing. This year's team's disappointing. It's tough to say. I wouldn't take either one of them. Code Daniel 13 says, T-Go Buddy. Interesting. Who do you think our number 2 and 3 candidates are? I really don't know what that is. That would just be a guess on my part, but Golish seems to be a very popular name, and a bigger name in terms of guy that's been on that level, maybe Fleck. But those are just guys. Those are guesses. I think that Golish is probably going to be high up that list. Who does John Tyson want as our coach next season? I think Tyson, he's behind the approach to try to get James Franklin. I mean, I know he is. I know he's there for Franklin. BS Darden says, with the potential of most of our roster transferring out at the end of the season, is it important to hire a coach who can bring in some of his former players with him? Yeah, that'd be good. I would have bet that there are a lot of Penn State players that would be interested in following Franklin if, wherever he goes, if it's Arkansas or where else. But yeah, I mean, that's what happened at Indiana. That's like Indiana had a lot of success because in large, the players they brought from James Madison with them. Gumpster 117 says, I'm going to read it. Titty bits. Yep. I'll hold for you to gather yourself from laughing. Okay. Why the radio silence yesterday? No news is good news, I hope. So somebody posted yesterday, it's like, Biddy's gone radio silent, Well, it was Sunday, okay, and it was a bye week, so I'm going to be gone the next 2 weekends. I don't live in the computer, although it seems like it sometimes, but I spend a little time with family, okay? That's it. There's nothing. Did some things that need to be done around the house. There wasn't anybody talking. I can't make people talk. I mean, I might send, text out, hey, anything new or something, but I usually don't. I don't like to pester people who are sources. They usually will come to me when, they want to. So I wasn't radio silent. I was just living my life. Pig Venus. Yep, Pig Venus says, last week you mentioned the urgency to get the football team competitive by 2030. You think there's really a chance that Arkansas could get relegated? If so, would it be football only? I wouldn't hate relegation. I kind of like the way soccer does it, to be honest. I mean, I don't think it's the worst idea. I don't think it'll ever happen. But yeah, I mean, like if there's I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I think you could run into a situation where maybe the revenue isn't distributed evenly like it has been in the SEC. SEC, everybody gets the same amount from like bowl games and stuff. It just gets spread around evenly. Maybe there's something that would change with that. I don't really know what's coming in college football, but there's definitely a push and an idea that Arkansas needs to be competitive and ready for 2030. Dr. Scotty Mack says he legitimately forgot there was more football games this year. C. Clem says, confidence level on the new hire. Do you think finally the powers that be that get us right and not be forced to settle? I don't know. I feel like they're doing the things that they can do right now to get things in order. If you want to read more about everything that we're putting at Hog Sports, go to HawgSports.com, sign up for 75% off. I want to thank Crain Automotive, thank Walker Brothers, Blakeman's, Ozarks Go. Am I leaving somebody out? I didn't do the walk and talk, but we give a shout out to our friends over at Sutherland's as well. Appreciate our friends at Sutherland's for everything they do. Barn Dominiums, garages, 1-800-66-BARN, Sutherlands.com. Bet Saracen, of course, Arkansas's #1 sports betting app, and use the promo code BIDDY, capital BIDDY 125, and you can get $125 back in bonuses for your first bet at $25. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Thanks to Connor Goodson as well. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you on Thursday.